Ashcroft, Griffiths, and Tiffin present a comprehensive exploration of how societies that have experienced colonialism respond through their literature. The central objectives of their book are twofold. Firstly, to delineate the diverse array of post-colonial texts and their characteristics, and secondly, to elucidate the range of theories that have emerged to expound upon these texts. Their scope is not limited solely to the literary practices of countries that gained independence in Asia, Africa, and Latin America after colonization, but also encompasses nations like the United States and Canada that have been influenced by the imperial process since their colonization and onwards. This expansive viewpoint stems from the recognition that certain thematic concerns have endured across the historical trajectory, shaped by imperial dominance. This is notably exemplified by the concept of place and displacement, a recurring motif within post-colonial literary practice. The construction of place emerges as a common threat in post-colonial societies, illustrating a disjunction between lived experiences of place and the language available to depict them. This gap is a distinctive and consistent element in post-colonial literature. The authors adopt a Foucauldian perspective, treating post-colonial literature as a discursive formation. They diverge from a narrow focus on textual comparisons and instead engage in systematic analysis, akin to Foucault's approach. This method transcends mere textual hierarchy or the pursuit of inherent metaphorical meanings. Instead, it aims to discern the symptomatic and unique attributes of post-colonial literary works. An essential facet of the post-colonial condition is the concept of hybridity, a wellspring of innovative vigor in reshaping language, text, and theory. This hybridity infuses the post-colonial individual's creative pursuit with more than mere appropriation. It transforms the periphery into a pivotal locus of differentiation. Within the realm of post-colonial subjectivity, these peripheries give rise to a Creole continuum, adding a pragmatic dimension to language and text theory. The interplay of difference in post-colonial texts involves incorporating native words, gradually shedding glossaries, and purposefully employing untranslated terms and act that fundamentally challenges existing power structures. These untranslated words, emblematic of cultural uniqueness within post-colonial texts, embody not just cross-cultural symbolism, but also a gauntlet for transcultural dialogue, necessitating readers to extend their understanding beyond the text itself. The interplay of difference also functions through the maintenance of a gap in the cross-cultural text, crucial for its ethnographic function. Unlike ethnography, where textual description molds the reality of the other, post-colonial texts manifest cultural divergence through the synecdochic function of language variance. This form of writing neither mirrors culture nor engenders a worldview, but establishes the groundwork for meaning's formation. Consequently, post-colonial literary theory tackles the intricate task of translating time into space, as the present wrests itself from the past. In parallel with recent post-colonial literature, it endeavors to construct a future. The post-colonial realm heralds a transformation wherein distinct cultural encounters evolve toward embracing difference on equitable terms. Converting time into space through creative processes demands an innovative engagement with tradition, wherein symbols transcend mechanical reflections of the past. Instead, they function as tools for self-reconciliation, especially in the face of contemporary dislocation and despondency. In the context of post-colonial literary theory, a crossroads emerges, entailing a struggle between conventional criticism and contemporary utility. A notable example is U.R. Ananthamurthy, a Kannada-speaking novelist and critic, whose perspective on the relationship between contemporary vernacular texts and the Tamil and Sanskrit canons accounts for literature in English and various Indian languages. Ananthamurthy acknowledges that contemporary Kannada texts might more readily incorporate English terms than Sanskrit ones, given their integration into the rhetoric accessible even to a rural character in the modern era. This recognition of diverse linguistic sources in post-colonial literary theory positions the critic and writer as a critical insider. Here, the writer remains within their tradition, but in a critical capacity, rejecting the notion of an unadulterated tradition, while embracing the contradictions inherent in their position as a wellspring of creative potential. This stance transcends notions of cultural regression or ongoing colonial dominance. Diverse post-colonial literatures harness their distinct subversive potential to confront the imperial canon. An illustrative instance is the subversive capacity inherent in Australian Aboriginal literature, stemming from the distinctive textual conception in traditional Aboriginal culture. Here, the land becomes a living text intricately interwoven with each individual's life and experiences. Among these literatures, the Caribbean emerges as a crucible for intricate and extensive post-colonial theory. Given the harsh realities of slavery and colonialism within Caribbean society, critical issues remain undiminished. The Caribbean experience of creolization becomes emblematic of creative innovation within post-colonial literary theory. The authors spotlight Wilson Harris as a prime exponent of Caribbean catalysis, championing the transformative might of imagination to effect genuine change. Harris underscores the need for critics to acknowledge that while the overt historical reality of a text might reflect destructive and ongoing imperialism, its exploration inevitably uncovers an underlying imaginative drive towards cross-culturality, creolization, hybridization, and catalysis. The prevailing presence of imperialism in these works is continuously undermined by an enduring regenerative force. Indeed, the contemporary challenge for critics lies in embodying this regenerative force. It necessitates constructing an intellectual and cultural movement dedicated to reimagining so-called canonical texts through alternative reading approaches. These innovative reading practices and unconventional literary genre models sourced from traditional origins empower intellectuals within transitional societies. These approaches enable them to redefine their identity, disassociating themselves from the colonial past and international postmodernism alike. The authors highlight the pivotal role of the colonial and post-colonial other in shaping both modernity and postmodernity. While modernity's imperial ambitions and its overarching aspiration for total assimilation have been widely discussed, Ashcroft et al. Caution against the risk of post-structuralism and postmodernism, absorbing post-colonial literature into a novel internationalist and universalist framework. They also underscore the profound linkages between post-coloniality and postmodernity, as both endeavors strive to reposition and rejuvenate margins and disparities. Additionally, the authors delve into the convergence of concerns between post-colonial discourse, literary theory, and contemporary theoretical movements like New Criticism and Critical Marxism. It's important to recognize that societies and cultures in what is often referred to as the periphery don't merely respond to the empire as spectral echoes. While the authors provide a comprehensive definition of post-coloniality, they might not fully address the nuanced post-independence situations of former colonies and the specific literary challenges they face. Pre-independence literature within these colonies often carried a fervor for people's freedom, aligning itself against established powers. However, after achieving independence and undergoing a shift in political dynamics, critics and writers within post-colonial societies have sometimes lost that critical edge. Instead, they've shifted towards praising new rulers and assuming a more submissive stance. This transformation and crisis of values, particularly evident in countries like India, reflects a generational change. The authors could have delved into this specific post-independence phase and how post-colonial literary theory addresses the concept of postponement of revolution. Although the authors raise pivotal points regarding post-colonial literary theory and practice, it's paradoxical that a book focused on post-colonialism confines its discussions to literature in English. This omission of vernacular literature significantly limits the scope of our understanding not only of post-coloniality, but also of the broader human experience. Amid the contemporary global endeavor to reconceptualize the relationship between identity and difference, the challenge lies in engaging with and reflecting upon post-colonial literature written in vernacular languages. Despite the acknowledged difficulties, collaborative efforts between scholars well-versed in both vernacular languages and the metropolitan literary canon can aid in comprehending the intricate tapestry of our contemporary discursive currents. These currents are simultaneously grounded in local contexts and woven into transnational genealogies and dynamics.